We now welcome men's Saints Hall of Famer and Fox 8 Saints analyst Deuce McAllister. Deuce, I guess the lesson here is you have to close. You have to finish. The Saints look like they were cruising to a victory about the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter, up 11, and yet somehow they come away with the loss 27-21 in overtime.
You can use any adjective you want as far as frustrating, disappointed, whatever it is, but it's tough to win in the NFL. And I think, when you have the opportunity to put a team away, and not to say that you can do it in the first quarter, but you can discourage them. And we saw too many opportunities early on where we didn't close in that high red zone area. You had crossed the 50 and, whether it was going for it on fourth down, whether it was punting, whether it was not getting it, you just got to figure out a way to finish drives. And then you talk about the lead that you had in the fourth quarter there. I mean, you go back and look at it. It's just not. I very, very rarely will I criticize play calling. And so I don't think that was the issue. It's more execution. And understanding and knowing that we can't take a penalty in this situation. I'd rather use a timeout here. Or just making sure that we execute to the highest level. And just too many times you didn't see a complete unit doing that.
The first three games. They got out of hand pretty quickly, both when they won and when they lost. This was a little more back and forth. It was a close game. You had a team that had a little momentum. Does it concern you that in their first true close game of the season, they kind of they couldn't finish strong like we had hoped they would?
It doesn't concern me in that matter. I mean, because for me, really, you go back to New England and they had that 7-minute drive. That was closing. You're on the road. You're closing, and that's what you were hoping for in this particular situation here. I thought you did some really good things on third down. I thought you were outstanding. I thought when you were in the red zone, you were really, really good. I mean, but you've got to figure out a way to say, I've got a go-to guy, whether that's on offense or defense, but you've got to have your go-to guy.
It looked like the script they were starting off with worked pretty well. They were running the football, ran the ball very effectively. As you said, converted third downs. The time of possession numbers, at least through regulation, was a positive. And then Jameis Winston, I thought in the second and third quarter, really looked like a quarterback that was getting in rhythm a little bit. I mean, for a part of this game, it looked like offensively they were executing that identity that they've really, come to embrace over the first four games.
I thought they executed really well in certain stints, and I thought, the frustrating part will be you get a penalty for an alignment, and Will Clapp checks into the game, and, Alvin either was on the ball or wasn't supposed to be on the ball. That was a penalty. You get a holding pass on a big play, an explosive play, where the following play comes back to be an interception. And so, from an offensive standpoint, there are some things that you have to be able to clean up, and, you can't do it just because your room for error is so small. Defensively, I don't know that defense just played. And when I say that, I say it in a respectful way because we've seen the Saints team not do some of the things that this team did. And you gave them explosive plays. That's not what you do. You didn't really flush to the quarterback. He was able to make plays in the pocket. He was comfortable in the pocket. We've got to win one-on-ones. You've got to be able to win some one-on-ones. And so just got to clean some stuff up. You've got to tackle. You've got to gain tackle. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the effort that they put forward going forward.
Yeah, and they're a prideful group. They'll likely bounce back. But did you expect Daniel Jones to have the day he had today? It looked like, felt his way through the game early, got the big shot early on in the game. I guess it would have been around the second or late first, early second quarter. And then by the fourth quarter into overtime, he looked like he was really into rhythm. I just didn't expect him to, frankly, shred the Saints secondary the way he did.
Well, I think that he was able to see some things as far as looks that he liked, and they found some matchups that they really liked. And, when you're not tackling, that doesn't help you. I mean, they were able to convert, 3rd and 18? They were able to convert another long third down play to Barkley on some screen plays. And, I mean, they had Rudolph earlier on the screen play, and no one was there. And it was Pete Warner taking on, who probably had him in man-to-man. He took on two linemen. He splits it, makes that tackle. They come back and run it with Saquon Barkley, and nobody's there. And Barkley's able to pick up a long third down. So, just too many situations where we've got to be more fundamental.
And look, I don't know if you agree with this, but I thought there was some questionable coaching decisions in this game. There was a 4th down and 3 earlier in the game. Kamara was short. They had a play before, had to call the timeout, and then they still ended up running it on 4th and 3. That's somewhat forgivable. But then they end up kicking a 58-yarder that was short or that was wide, and on the next play, the Giants were able to hit the big play. And then there was a challenge that would have netted them maybe a yard or two on the second down. So I just felt like Sean Payton probably could have been a little more sharp today.
Well, that's always going to be when you don't make those right calls, or at least they go in your direction. You can always go back and question them. And hey, look, I even questioned a couple of those myself. When it doesn't work for your way, it's always questionable. When it works, you're a genius. And so I get that. I understand it. It's about trusting the players to execute some of the things that you're calling on them to do, and you just didn't do it enough.
Saints are 2-2. Looked like they were going to win this game. Then it kind of got away from them. How good is this team right now? I still think there's a little bit of a fact-finding mission here with this team, because I don't know just how good overall this team is right now.
After a quarter of the season, right now they are 500.
Yeah.
And I mean, until they figure out a way to put consecutive good games together, that's what we have. And so, we're expecting them to go on the road next week and they figure out a way to win. But you put yourselves, I don't want to call it behind the 8 ball, because there's still a lot of football left to be played. But right now, you're a 500 team.
You are what your record says you are, as Bill Parcells, Sean Payton's mentor, likes to say. Deuce, thank you so much.
No problem.